Welcome back. On Tuesday, the Justice Department tried and failed to secure an indictment against the 6 Democrats who released a video last year telling U.S. troops they can refuse illegal orders. At the time, the president accused those lawmakers of seditious behavior punishable by death. NBC's Ryan Riley reports that according to 2 sources familiar with the matter, none of the grand jurors believed the DOJ met the threshold of probable cause necessary for an indictment. Today, some of those lawmakers speaking out.
Folks, this is the master alarm flashing for our democracy. It is threatening the very foundation of our system, that we have a right to free speech.
Let's call it for what it is. The president is using our justice system to weaponize against his perceived enemies.
Joining me now is Democrat Congressman Jason Crow of Colorado. He was one of those 6 Democrats that the DOJ tried to indict for that video, telling troops to refuse illegal orders. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us. You had a warning for the Trump administration, saying that you will seek accountability for those abusing the system of justice. And you also put the DOJ on notice, saying there's going to be costs. What did you mean by that?
Well, that's right, Melanie. What I'm unwilling to do is to sit back and allow this administration to abuse the law, to abuse process, to abuse the American people's justice system, a justice system that should be serving them, to keep our communities safe, to go after violent criminals, to go after organized crime, to go after health care fraud, to go after cyber crime, all the things that are difficult for American people, that's instead being used by Donald Trump to go after his political opponents. So we're not going to just sit back and take it. Well, my message to the Trump administration is very simple. If you're going to abuse your duty, we're going to seek accountability and justice against you. I'm taking names, I'm making lists, and we're going to make sure that we pursue that accountability.
Can you expand on what that accountability actually looks like? Does it mean when Democrats get the majority, if they get the majority, there would be investigations or any sort of consequences?
Well, right now, my lawyers are very clear. They sent a letter to the DOJ today saying that if they continue to abuse process and pursue frivolous, baseless claims and prosecutions against us, that we will litigate. We will not sit back and just take their abuses, that we will go after them. And leadership has been very clear on the Democratic side that we will also pursue accountability. We will look for evidence. We'll look for records. We will hold hearings. That we will be unrelenting in going after folks who have abused the American people, who have covered up murders in the case of ICE in Minneapolis, who are part of the conspiracy to cover up the release of the Epstein files. That there is so much corruption in this administration that it's going to take us some time to unravel it, but we are absolutely dedicated to that project.
I did want to ask you, yesterday, Speaker Johnson suggested that you probably should have been indicted, but then he appeared to walk that back today. Here's some of what he said.
It's a very dangerous gambit that they were playing. Should they be sent to jail? Probably not. But we need to call it out as being wildly inappropriate, and they need to course correct.
Do you think they should be indicted?
I don't know what the terms of it were. I think we should jealously guard the First Amendment, but I also believe that people here have to, use their responsibility, use their platform wisely, and sending a message to young service members that they should defy orders is crazy to me.
Congressman, what's your response to that?
Well, it's too bad that he actually has never served a day in the life in the military and doesn't actually understand what military life is like and the training that our service members go through. I did 3 combat tours to Iraq and Afghanistan. I led paratroopers. I led Army Rangers overseas. And what I know is that this is drilled into you from the first days of boot camp, what your obligation is to follow the law, what the law of war requires you to do and not to do, what your constitutional duty and your oath requires you to do. This is so essential to military service that when folks talk about this being a problem, it just shows their ignorance and their lack of understanding of military life and what our obligation is in the military. And it also shows how they are walking away from their duty as members of Congress, right? I want to be really clear that this is not just our right as members of Congress to remind the executive branch to follow the law. It is actually our duty. It's what Congress exists for. We were put into the Constitution to make sure the government served the American people and followed the law while doing it.
On the other end of the political spectrum inside the GOP, I do want to read you something that Republican Senator Tom Tillis said about this failed indictment. He said, political lawfare waged by either side undermines America's criminal justice system. Political lawfare is not normal, not acceptable, and needs to stop. So what do you think for Republicans who haven't spoken out about this? And what is your message to Republican colleagues? Are you getting any private words of support from some of them?
With shockingly little support from my congressional colleagues, but Senator Tillis is absolutely right. He's right, and I couldn't agree with him more. What's really, really too bad, for lack of a better word, is that it takes someone who's retiring to show courage and to speak up, right? And it shouldn't take a retirement for somebody to actually do the right thing and to do their duty. So where does that leave us as a country and the American people? Well, we need to send people packing who have turned their back on their duty, and we need a new generation of leaders to step up and to take over and to do the right thing for America.
While I have you, Congressman, I do want to turn to some other news of the day because DHS runs out of funding in less than 3 days now. Where do you stand on passing another CR to allow negotiations on DHS reforms to continue?
Oh, hell no, Melanie. You think I'm going to give another blank check to a runaway lawless agency that's murdering American citizens without accountability and investigations, that's yanking Americans off the street, denying them due process, deporting people without hearing, people who are dressed up like commandos, I call it commando cosplay, on our streets around our country, the same type of stuff I wore in Iraq and Afghanistan? You think I'm going to allow that to continue? Americans deserve better. What they want is a federal law enforcement agency that's going to go after violent crime, that's going to restore trust, that's going to work with local law enforcement and do the right thing. What they've been served by this administration is a bunch of folks dressed up, intimidating and abusing Americans, and I'm just not going to stand for it.
A DHS shutdown, though, would largely not impact ICE. It would be blocking funding for other agencies, though, like FEMA and Coast Guard and the TSA. So are you willing to shut down those agencies, and for how long?
Well, let's talk about FEMA. I'm glad you actually raised FEMA. Let's talk about what this administration has done with FEMA, right? They've cut funding for FEMA. They've denied emergency declarations for Democratic states just for political reasons that need critical emergency funds. They have actually not reimbursed states for emergency funds through FEMA. This administration has gutted FEMA. And we have fought that, we have resisted that, and we will continue to. So I'm not going to sit here and listen to them talk about FEMA when they're the ones who are turning their back on the American people and the needs of everyone, regardless of their political affiliation.
Just quickly here, I know Democrats put forward their list of 10 demands. Minority Leader Jeffries says these aren't negotiable. So is that a good faith negotiation if Democrats aren't willing to compromise on some of those demands?
Yeah, well, we're trying to enforce the law and the Constitution. That's what those demands are. Right? We're trying to protect Americans. And the Constitution is not negotiable. Following the law is not negotiable. And protecting the American people is not negotiable.
Congressman Crow, thank you so much.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.